Happy Friday. Welcome to another episode of Murders, Mysteries, and More. My name's Kaylee.
My name's Desi.
Don't forget to like and subscribe, and don't forget to hit the bell next to the subscribe button to turn on post notifications. Before we get into this case, we always encourage those who have useful information to any unsolved case, please report to your local police and sheriff department.
September 26, 2014. Literally 11 years ago. Which is crazy. Almost 11 years ago. 10, more like it. September 26, 2014. 43 student teachers left to go to Iguala, Mexico. Their plan was to attend a commemoration of a massacre that occurred. The massacre was committed by the government, and they killed 300 people during a student protest in 1968. That night, all 43 students vanished without a trace. With that being said, the biggest puzzle piece remains. Where did they go?
So, September 26th, over 100 students from an all-male teacher program who attended the rural normal school left in two buses. The school is known for its activism and social justice. The school is known to provide free education to impoverished students in Mexico. The plan for them was to protest during a function held by the mayor of Iguala, and the mayor is Jose Luis Abercrombie.
Abracadabra!
And his wife Maria de Los Angeles Pinade. And the students were going to protest against discriminatory hiring processes against teachers. Iguala is a very dangerous town in Mexico because of the amount of drug cartels. They also had plans to raise funds for a trip to Mexico City to march to commemorate the anniversary of the 1968 massacre. So this massacre occurred on October 2nd, 1968, when the Mexican government killed 300 innocent people protesting in Mexico City. The group of students headed out at 6 p.m. The students did work with the bus drivers to borrow the buses because they needed the transportation, and most bus drivers in Mexico were okay with this and were recommended by authorities to stay on the bus to ensure that the bus would be safely returned.
The students had two buses, and one was sitting on a highway near a restaurant. Another one sat by a toll booth near Iguala. I almost did it again. The student spoke to her driver about borrowing a bus, and he stated that it was okay. He just needed to make a stop at Central Iguala bus station to drop off the passengers he had. When he got to the bus station, he left and spoke to security guards. Students attempted to get out, only to find out they were locked in the bus. 9:15 p.m., students from two other buses arrived to help them out by breaking the windows. By this time, they managed to commandeer a total of 5 buses, and at 9:30 p.m. they headed to their protest. 3 buses went towards the north side of Iguala and 2 went towards the south side. Police, state, Mexican Army, and federal police tracked their movements this night. Students were not aware of this, though. Police had started following the 3 buses that headed north, and one of the buses was actually cut off. They had to stop, and the students got out to try to move the police car. The police fired off warning shots in the sky, and students retaliated back by throwing rocks and smashing windows of the police truck. The students got back on the bus, and some other police started to follow them, which is kind of creepy.
Yep, so 10 police vehicles at the very least followed them. Another police car cut the bus off again. The students got out and they tried to push the bus, but this unfortunately backfired. So police started firing shots at the students, and the students obviously ran behind the bus to take shelter. The students yelled at the police, "Why are you shooting? We are unarmed." The police continued to fire shots regardless. One student was left brain dead after being shot, and 2 other students were injured. At 9:58 p.m., a call was made to EMS, and the ambulance was dispatched, and it arrived and transported the 3 students that were shot along with another student who had an asthma attack, and they transported them to a nearby hospital. Around 10:50 p.m., officers forced students hiding in the bus to get off by gunpoint, and they even held the bus driver at gunpoint as well. They put the students on the street, made them lie on the ground with their hands on their heads, and the officers arrested and placed the students in multiple police vehicles. It's believed that there was about 6 or 7. And then hoods were also placed over their heads, and the police drove away. These were a part of the 43 students that completely vanished.
At 9:45 p.m., another bus, one of the buses heading south, was also stopped by the police, and the police decided to throw tear gas at the students and started firing shots at the bus. These students were also taken from the bus and loaded into police cars. They were also never seen again, and these students make up the 43 missing students. Officers intercepted the other bus heading south, and these students were obviously aware of what happened. Police held guns to their heads and tried to force them off the bus, but when the students got off the bus, they ran immediately to nearby woods and managed to shelter at a nearby residency. 11:15 p.m., police stopped a bus carrying a high school soccer team, and they thought it was another one of the student buses. The driver lost control, and students got to the ground because police kept shooting bullets at them. Students screamed they were in high school, students screamed they were a high school soccer team. Don't hurt us. The police did not care though and kept shooting, killing the bus driver, a high school soccer player who was 15 years old, and they injured 8 other people. They also killed a woman in a taxi nearby.
And there were over 60 shell casings found at the scene. Many were from assault rifles. The surviving students that were heading north in the other buses gathered in the streets in the area of the crime. Journalists showed up. At this time, a white utility van and a black car drove by. The people in the vehicles were wearing hoods and bulletproof vests, and they took photos of the scene. A police vehicle also drove past. 15 minutes later, both of those cars returned and opened fire on everybody. So 2 more people were killed, and 24 students went to a medical clinic to try to get help because they were injured, and the women refused to help them. The students begged for an ambulance, but the women instead called the police. The 27th Police Battalion showed up. The students were immediately forced on the ground, forced to take off their shirts, and they checked all their pockets before they left. So in total, 43 students went missing, 6 people were killed, 25 people were wounded. The following morning, student Julius Caesar Mondragon was found on his back, and the skin from his face was removed. His shirt was pulled up. He had multiple bruises on his torso. He had a fractured skull. His organs had ruptured. And because of the way he was found, many people believe that a gang did this. But again, it's still not 100% certain.
Now, into theories, which are always so very wonderful. Mayor Abakar and his wife set the whole thing up, which I can believe that. Anything's possible. In around 2010, federal authorities investigated both him and his wife for illegal enrichment. Iguala residents said his 2012 election took intimidation and fear to the next level. A well-known activist, Hernandez, was killed within less than a year of his term, and the mayor's driver stated that he was the mayor who pulled the trigger and attacked the activist. This investigation came to a halt, though. Many people believe that Maria organized the event that students protested, and they also believe she did this to kick off her husband's campaign. Maria is related to well-known cartel members, and obviously this means she has connections. Two of her brothers operated the Sinaloa cartel. Also, the couple had incentive to be friendly towards the cartels. One of the members of the Giras cartel said the wife organized the crime in the city. He stated that the mayor was paid in 2 to 3 million pesos every so often. It is believed that the students were kidnapped and handed to the cartel. In an interview, the mayor says that he has no information about the attacks. He claimed he was at his event at the time and hosted an after party afterwards.
So September 29th, he met with the Democratic Revolution Party, and the president asked him to resign. The following day, the mayor requested a 30-day leave of absence, and the Iguala city approved this. Federal agents raided his home. They found him nowhere and figured his family fled and were hiding in Mexico City. The following month, they were arrested for the murder of the activists. The next theory is that the cartels of the Guerrillas Unidos kidnapped the students. This theory is that the cartel members wanted extortion money. The government believes that the police from the Iguala and Cucula kidnapped the students and took them to the secret area. They believed after they were handed to the Guerrillas Unidos, they are known for kidnapping, extortion, drug trafficking. Students were loaded to a truck with a cage on the back and headed to a dump on the outskirts of Cucula. And police did arrest 8 suspects from the Guerrillas Unidos. 3 suspects captured stated multiple students suffocate from the weight of the cage. Then the rest of the students were taken out of a truck, lined up, and accused of being a part of a rival gang, and shot to death.
All of the bodies were thrown into a pit with plastic, wood, and they used gasoline to set the bodies on fire. They hired guards there to make sure no one found them. Ashes were thrown into the San Juan River. Experts from the Inter-American Mission on Humane Rights did a report. The government rolled this theory as to what happened, but the experts do not believe that this was the correct theory. They believed that they needed to look into the police even more. The experts believe that some of the buses may have contained money or drugs. October 5th, 2014, a mass grave site was found near Iguala. 28 bodies were found. On October 14th, police said that they tested the remains and none of them belonged to the 43 students, which I call bullshit. That's just how I feel. I call bullshit. But that same day, an additional 4 mass graves, the amount of bodies as unknown, were found as well. None of the DNA matched any of the remains. A California journalist group believes that the federal police contributed to the disappearance based off witness testimonies. To this day, unfortunately, this remains unsolved and probably will for a very long time. We'd love to know which theory you believe the most, though.
What you think?
I think the government did it. They were involved.
I think so too.
Yeah, they had
You think the mayor could have been involved too, in addition to the government?
I think yes, because
Yeah,
from what it sounds like, they were also well connected, and they sound very shady.
they do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think they did it.
So to Reddit comments, the very first one is by Old Weekend 501. Today I learned 43 students mysteriously vanished in southwestern Mexico in September 2014. Imperium Sonanum. At least the why has finally been answered. Unintentionally hijacking a large shipment of heroin explains why the cartel went after them.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy.
Maximus Decimus. Why? Because the students had stolen several buses with the intent to drive to Mexico City for a protest. However, they didn't realize that the buses were part of a drug running operation meant to transport a huge cargo of heroin across the U.S. border, which, you know, we're very popular for our heroin, so
Yep.
that kind of makes sense.
And marijuana.
Marijuana and meth. Don't forget about that.
Cocaine.
And acid.
Yep.
And shrooms.
And Aardvark striking 256. Doesn't the torture seem excessive? Boric IMO. Not when the cartel needs to know if you stole the buses full of heroin on purpose or who they were working for.
X31B, if I lived in Mexico, I'd be begging my government to completely disband and either merge with the US or be run as a colony. To be fair, we're not any better.
No.
We have our own issues, which kind of align, except we don't have cartels, we have gangs.
Yeah.
But it's the same shit. So
Yeah, everybody has their issues.
so you're always gonna have crime and problems and corruption. So it doesn't really matter.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Zoe Ham. There's a Netflix documentary called The 43. Interesting.
Yep. Massive concern. Police are the cartel. Police are the cartel in the U.S. too. Yes, they are.
Yep, they can be.
Yep, they can be. Caddy
Yeah.
underscore big says, how on earth do you unintentionally hijack a large shipment of heroin? It'd be happening, I guess.
Yeah, well, and there was a journalist that did an interview and they wrote a book about it. And they said that some of the buses had secret compartments where the drugs were stashed. So if they obviously didn't know that there was a compartment there, then
I say they have to be good at smuggling their drugs across the border somehow.
yeah.
And that's how.
So this one is by Kaiser_Allen. How 43 students on a bus in southwestern Mexico vanished into thin air. And then Killer Kitten 61. I read a book about this. My heart goes out to the victim's family. The book is called I Couldn't Imagine They Would Kill Us by John Gibler. Interesting.
Check it out. Neil underscore that ass underscore bison. Jesus Christ. Jesus Christ. This is so fucking dark, man. Damn, Mexico really is run by the cartels, man. Normal citizens are just meat fodder. Yeah, basically.
Yeah. Norton the Logi, like, why kill them all? Get your stupid effing bus back and make them hitchhike home.
RIP. Fair enough, yeah.
And then somebody responded, to the cartel, it's a matter of a saving face more than anything. The drug war down there has escalated to such point that all infractions, whether intentional or not, are treated with draconian reprisals by default, even civilians. This is not done to not only intimidate civilians, but also send a message to other cartels.
Yeah.
Yep.
Sex robot underscore sex robot. Twice? Okay. Sounds like there's plenty for them to have protested. Every journalist that covers these stories and every person willing to run against the cartels is a damn hero. Or damn risky.
Yeah.
I say.
Oh, there's somebody that's Desi Guy 321.
Hey, Desi guy! What's up, my guy?
So they say Hollywood glorifies cartels, drugs, and the corrupt political system of Mexico shelters these crime lords. U.S. political system saves these scumbags for their own agendas, and innocent folk lives don't matter in between. Does this ever end? Yep.
Pixel Sinner. The amount of WTF in this story is giving me an aneurysm. Same.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Another person says, check out the 43 on Netflix. I guess go check that out.
Yeah, do it. Do it.
Kiss my ass 42069. This sounds like a fucking horror movie. This is absolutely horrifying. Yep.
That's crazy. It's very spooky dooky. 43 students in Mexico went on their way to protest against discriminatory teacher practices, only to be kidnapped, possibly tortured, beaten, and possibly even killed. Their remains are absolutely nowhere to be found, at least not to us. The unfortunate reality is that their families may never find answers or know exactly what happened to them. We can only hope that they eventually do, but most of the time, people don't get to. Thank you for listening. Like always, tune in next week for another exciting episode. And remember to always keep your eyes open because you never know when someone's creeping and when you find a bus full of heroin and you get hijacked.